Around 9 months ago, I uploaded one video in which I showed you how we can create a realistic text input within the Figma that we can use in our prototype, and the user can really type in the text using the physical keyboard or the digital keyboard on the touch screen inside that text input. If you haven't watched that video, I will leave the link to that video in the description of this video, or you can click on the banner on top and watch the video right now. Let me briefly explain you what approach I use in order to build that text input. First of all, I had to make one text variable in order to store each value that the user entered into the text input. It could be a number or a string. So I made one string variable. The second thing that I had to do was that I had to create interaction for each keys of the keyboard. It doesn't matter if it's a physical keyboard or it was the key on the digital keyboard on the screen. So we had to create one interaction for each, in which we wanted to define what's going to happen if the user clicks on that specific key of the keyboard. For example, if the user click on the A, then we had to add A or the character of A to the string variable that we define to store those values. However, this process and approach was very time consuming. We have to add the interaction of each keys of the keyboard individually and separately, which means that we have to do a lot of manual works. And on top of that, if we wanted to add more than one text input into our prototype, then our job was even harder. In this video, I would like to introduce you one plugin which is going to take care of all those manual works and deliver us the final text input that we can use in our prototype, which is of course functional. Get sure to watch this video if you would like to know which plugin I'm talking about. My name is Kia and here's a Kimo. Welcome back to my channel. I really recommend you to watch those videos that I mentioned at the beginning of this video. Watching those videos are going to help you to have a good understanding of the variables and how you can use the variables in order to build such a complex interactions, and in general a good understanding of conditional prototyping. But don't worry if you haven't watched that video yet. I will explain you briefly how the concept and the logic behind making the text input, functional text input of course, inside the Figma in this video as well. But before we go further, I would like to ask you to subscribe to my channel if you are new here and if you haven't done it yet, and like this video and share this video in your community with the other designers. In this way you can help me and support me to make more videos regarding UI and UX design. And at the end, of course, don't forget to share your opinion and thought in the comment section with me, which is very valuable. I'm going to read all the comments and I'm trying to respond to all of them. Now without further ado, let's get started. So first of all, we have to open the resources window here on top by clicking on this icon here. Also, we can use the shortcut or the combination key Shift-I. It does the same thing. And here the plugins tab, we can search for interactive typing input, which you can already see here in my recent section because I recently used it. Now we click on it and we open our plugin. And before we go further, I would like to show you who made this plugin. We can click, oops, this opened the plugin again, sorry. Yeah, we can click here on the view the details. Then we can see who made this plugin, Flip. And there are a bunch of explanation how the thing is going to work, what are the limitations, blah, 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 blah. So here in this window, we have a bunch of settings and fields that we need to fill. We basically configuring our component, the text input component that we are going to add to our design file. The first field that we need to fill is the component name. Here in this case, I would like to name it email address text input. Or maybe let's see if we can use the cascading option that we have in the Figma. So for example, text input dash email address. I will give it a try and see if it works in this way. The second field is the component label. This is the label that we will see on the text input, like the top of the text input. So I'm going to name it email address. And then we have the placeholder here for the text input. For now, let's leave it as it is, type here, but of course we can change it to more meaningful placeholders. And the most important part here is the configuration of the backspace behavior. For those who try to build the text input from the scratch in the Figma, they are familiar with this challenge that how we can make the behavior of the backspace and how we can make a functional backspace actually. But here we can configure the behavior of this backspace button in some sort. For example, we can say when the user click on the backspace, whole value of the variable is going to delete. So we delete that basically. So the text input is going to get empty again. Or it's undo only one letter. For now, I'm just going to keep it in as a delete all, but having this option here is kind of very convenient. Now we can click on the create component, and I guess I need to remove this window, and yes, we have the component here, the text input component. You can see the naming and everything else. So it's basically text input dash email address. Let me make one frame here and let's call it preview. I would like to add one instance from the asset panel here on top. One instance of this component into this frame, and then run the prototype. Before I go further, I just would like to get sure that the default state of the text input is already correctly set. When I check here right now of this instance, you can see that the state is not default, is active. So let's switch back to default. And now let's run the preview. Okay, you can see that we have this text input here. Whenever I click on it, it's going to switch to the active state, and then I can write down my name here easily using the keyboard. The text input is working basically, but there is one limitation here. I am not able to click again on this text input and retype something in it or change whatever I gave to it, which I'm going to show you some solution for it, how you can solve this problem. But before we get deeper into this thing, I would like to show you how this plugin builds the interaction. So let's get back to our master component, the text input that we have here, and switch to the prototype panel. And this way we can see the interactions that we have. I'm going to select the default state that we have here in the center, and then you can see that it's connected to the active state, and we have one interaction here, which is very simple. So basically, on click or this interaction is going to trigger by clicking, and the interaction type is changed to. So whenever user click on this state, on this component, it's going to change to the active state, and the animation type is instant. So we won't have some sort of smooth transition. Makes sense? Everything clear. Then I select the active state, and you can see here we have a bunch of interactions. When I click on it, you can see in the prototyping panel that how many interactions we have. We basically have interactions for each keys of the keyboard. You can see. How does this thing work? For example, let's go to key Z. Let's open this interaction. Here we say basically this interaction is going to get triggered whenever user click on the key, the Z key of the keyboard, which again makes sense. So the trigger type is on the key or gamepad, and the key which is going to trigger this interaction is Z. And then we have some sort of conditional prototyping or conditional interaction, which is basically checking the value of our text input in the default state, and it's basically saying if the default state or if we are in the default state, then remove all the text in the default state. For example, type here is going to get removed, and add the new character, which is Z in this case, into the string variable. So we will see here Z, and again it's going to check if it's not in the default state. Just take all the text the value of the string variable and add the Z as a next character to that text. So we are not going to remove everything, we will just add on top of that. And this is basically what's happening here, which I explain in detail in those videos that I mentioned at the beginning of the video, and I don't want to say it again. So get sure to watch those videos in case you would like to understand this thing. But it's very nice that we have all this interaction by clicking, by some clicks using this plugin. This is the manual work that I talk about. So we had to build all these interactions separately ourselves in a manual way. Here I'm going to switch back to the design panel and open the local variables. You can see that we have 3 variables here in our local variable window, which has been built by this plugin automatically. So the first one is the before, the second one is the placeholder, and the last one is basically the value. This one is the one which is going to store the text that the user enter. To show you how, I'm going to make one text input here. Let's write text in it, that we can see it actually. And then here in the text setting section in our design panel, we have this apply variables. I'm going to select on this one and connect the text to the value. You can see it's already typed here because it's equal with the default or the placeholder text that we have. But if I run the prototype, let me just make this page a little bit smaller. Okay, like this. If I start to type something in this text input, you can see that we have the same value here in the text because I connected to the same variables. Next point is that what if we would like to have the second text input? So let's open up the interactive typing input plugin one more time. Here, I would like to name it text input dash, oops, I wrote it wrong, dash password. And the label for this text input is going to be password as well. Type here, the rest can stay as it is. And I'm going to click on create the component. Okay. Now we have the second text input. Yeah, let's add this password as well here. And then I'm going to set it to the default state. So now we have two text input. Let's run the preview. When I click on the first text input and write something, it works. When I click on the second one, it works. When I click back to the first one, it's not working. Basically, we have some sort of problems in the logic after we enter something in this text input that I will solve within a few minutes. So just bear with me. Now I would like to make a little bit more complex prototype. I want to use this text input actually in a real prototype. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make one sign-in form, which I'm going to check the password and email address with the password and email address that I have from past. And if they're matching together, then user can log in and go to the next page. And if not, then we will give an error. So let's start to build this. First of all, I need a submit button or login button or whatever. So let's call it login. I'm using the text input to write down the login here and then use the combination key Shift A to make a frame apply auto layout around this layer. And I would like to add a background color. So I'm going to select the button and go to the design panel here in the fill section, click on this plus button and add any background color that I would like to have. Maybe something blue, a little bit dark. And I scroll up again and add a corner radius to have a little bit rounded corners. Beside this, I guess we have to change the color of the text. So I'm selecting it and then here in the fill section, I'm going to make it white and let's make it bold. I'm going to select this preview frame that we had and I'm going to rename it to form. I'm going to apply auto layout by selecting it and clicking on this plus button in the auto layout section. So now we have some sort of form frame, which we can play around with the top horizontal basically and vertical paddings. So in the next couple of minutes of this video that I'm going to go fast forward, I just built a login page using the form that we built. Nothing special, I just made one frame and add a background image to it and then add the form that we built together into it. And then I duplicate this page and build two other page. In one of them I use it for showing the error message when the user entered the wrong password or email, and the other one I use to show the confirmation message or welcome message in which the user will understand that everything was right and the password and email is matching together. Okay, we have these two text input in our sign-in form that we need to check with our database and get sure that this email is matching with the password that we have in our database basically. So as I said, we need to have some sort of database to store the users logging and signing in information and data. So let's open the local variables first of all, and I would like to make a new collection because I would like to handle the information regarding the users in different ways with different modes. So I click on this three dot here and create a collection. Let's name it users. The first user that I want to make is myself, basically. So I'm going to make one in string variable. Let's name it, I don't know, ID. Let's make it a little bit complex, but let's add one ID at the beginning to it. I don't know, 1001. The first mode that I'm going to make is for the name. So I'm going to write down my name here. The second one is basically for the email, which I'm going to write it, I don't know, kia@gmail.com. And the last one is going to be the password. 1, 2, 3, 4. We can also duplicate this user and make the second user that we have. Let's name it Jack. And the email is different. The password can be different also. Let's make it 4321. And I guess we are good here. So we have now 2 users in our database that we would like to check the given value here in the text input with those data, and then kind of redirect the user to the next page, the next step. Now it's time to work on our interaction to make this prototype works. We would like that everything happen after user click on the login button. So basically we get two texts from the user. One is the email address, one password. Then when the user click on this login button, we check this information and data with what we have in our database that I made right now. And if everything is fine, they're matching together, then we navigate user to this page, which is the correct password. If something is wrong, we navigate the user to wrong password. So we need to make the interaction for this button. So I'm selecting this button, going to the prototyping panel, click on this plus button to make interaction. The trigger type is of course unclick. And here I need to make a conditional prototyping. And the reason is very clear, because we need to check some sort of conditions, of course, before we navigate user to somewhere. And as I said, we would like to navigate the user to the next page that we have in case everything is okay. So the action within the conditional interaction, it should be navigate to. And of course, for now, the correct page. Okay, now it's time to write down our condition here. First thing I want to check is the email address. So I am going to get the value here, the value variable for the email address. I click here. And this one should be equal with one of the email address that we have in our database. So it should be equal, for example, with Kiarash here. This is the collection users, and then ID 1001 is basically Kiarash user. But of course, here I need to say which field of this kind of database, which mode of this variable is applicable here. So we would like to check the email. So I'm clicking on this variable. And here then I can select the mode that I want to check, or I want to apply on this conditional interaction. So here in this case, email. In continue, we should say it's not enough that the email is equal with that. Also, the password should match. So I'm going to add one and. After this and, I would like to check the value of the password here. You can see the password section, and then value, which is going to be the value that the user gave here, should be also equal with exactly the same password of the same user. So ID 1001. I click on it again, and this time the password. Before I go further to make the same thing for the next user, let's give a try and see if it works in a way that we expect or not. So I enter here. You can see that I add my interaction and my condition. And if this condition is right, then user should navigate to this page, welcome platform. Also one more step before I run the prototype. If these conditions are not applicable, then I would like to navigate to wrong password. Now let's run the prototype. Yeah, okay, you can see that I scaled this prototype and that broke this things a little bit, which is okay. Let's give my email address something wrong and my password also something wrong, and click on the login. You can see that we got navigated to wrong password page, which kind of made me happy. Oh, unfortunately I forgot to link this button so to the first page. I'm going to select this button and just connect it to the first page. Okay, I'm going to run this prototype one more time. First of all, let's give one email address, which was Kia with the capital K @gmail.com, and then the password was 1234, and now we click on the login, and the prototype is working. So we basically checked the password and email all together with the users that we had, and it matched. So the user got navigated to this page, correct password. Okay, as I said, we had some problem here and limitations that I would like to correct them before I go further. First thing is that when the user is in the active state, and then after active state to the I don't know which one is it, the field state, then user cannot get back again to active state to continue typing something or change the given kind of text. Here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just very simply click on email address here in this like this state, and then go to the prototyping panel and connect this to the active state. This might cause some issue later on. I will explain you what exactly I mean later. Now, if I run the prototype, you can see I can click on this text field, type something, and again click on it, go to the field state, again click on it, start to continue to type something new. But in that case, you can see I need to get sure that this text input is on the field state before I click on the new text input, that I can write down something on it. So if I mix this, you can see that I can select on this one and then select on this one, but I still write on this one. So basically the state should be always active, that I can write down something. However, the best solution to make this functionality look more perfect and smooth is that you define another variables which is going to manage the state of this text input. So we can have only one text input in active state at the same time, controlled by those variables. So whenever we click on this one, the rest of the text input, no matter how many we have, all are going to go to the I don't know, the active state or a field state, and only one of them that we are clicking on is going to get activated. This is something that is missing right now, and it's a little bit right now time consuming that I make it for this video. Maybe later on, if this video get enough attention, I will work on more complex forms using this plugin. But before I close this video, I would like to show you the preview one more time. So I'm going to select the login. This time I'm going to present it in a full prototype mode. Let's select the first text input, and you can see that still I didn't fix this auto layout thing, so it's jumping between different states with different size and behavior, but it doesn't matter. I'm pretty sure you can figure out the issue and find a solution for it. But let's write down some random email here, Kiasa, I don't know, gmail.com, and the password can be, I don't know, something random again. I click on login, I get this message, the wrong password. Let's click on try again. We come back here. I can delete the value of this one, write down my email address, kia@gmail.com, which is of course is not my real email address, but it's the right email address according to the user that we have in the database, and then password, which was, if I'm not mistaken, 1234. And now I click on the login, and we redirected to the kind of welcome page, which means we passed the gate. So that was it. Actually, this plugin is going to help us a lot in order to save huge amount of time for ourselves to focus on more important stuff in our prototyping, and at the same time having a realistic and functional text input. So I'm really happy with overall experience that I had using this plugin. However, as I showed you, there are some kind of small minor issues that we can of course manually solve them. Other than that, everything is good, and as you saw, we can use them in order to build more complex logic, such as the sign-in page, I don't know, maybe search functionality or whatsoever. It's depend on you. Please let me know if you enjoyed this video and if it was helpful for you. Like this video, share this video with the other designers in community, and of course don't forget to subscribe to my channel to get sure you're not gonna miss the next video. Let's learn together and see you in the next video.